Trump administration's funding cuts to food banks spark fears for worsening hunger. Food banks across the United States are bracing for a significant decline in food supply due to funding cuts and program pauses initiated by the Trump administration. The impact is being felt nationwide, particularly in states like West Virginia, Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, California, and Nebraska. Low-income Americans who rely on food banks for basic nutrition are at the center of this crisis. Food bank organization which serves millions are struggling to compensate for the loss of crucial federal support. Local farmers who supplied food banks through government-funded programs are also facing financial setbacks. The Trump administration has implemented at least $1 billion in funding reduction affecting key USDA program, particularly the Emergency Food Assistance Program, that is TEFAP, and Local Food Purchase Assistance, that is LFPA program. These programs provided food banks with essential supplies like dairy, meat, and produce by purchasing goods directly from farmers. Vince Hall, the Chief Government Relations Officer of Feeding America, revealed that TEFAP funding has been slashed by $500 million, leaving food banks scrambling to find alternative sources of nutrition for millions of Americans. The administration has also entirely cancelled the LFPA program, which previously funded around $500 million annually to support food distribution to the neediest communities. The cuts are part of President Trump's broader strategy to curb inflation by reducing government expenditures. The administration claims that reining in federal spending will ultimately benefit the economy. However, critics argue that the cuts disproportionately impact vulnerable populations who depend on government assistance for survival. Some food banks are attempting to make up for the lost supply by partnering with local restaurants and other donors, but these measures are unlikely to fully bridge the gap. Savannah Oates, a representative of Community Action Partnership of Kern in California, warned that her food bank's stockpile might only last between 2 to 6 months if additional aid isn't secured soon. The impact of these funding reduction is already being felt on the ground in Charleston, West Virginia. Trinity's Table, a food assistance organization, received only a fraction of its usual USDA shipment. What once arrived in an 18-wheeler was reduced to a few small boxes of shelf-stable milk, dried potatoes, and vegetarian baked beans. Sarah Buse, the volunteer coordinator, voiced her concerns about the possibility of shutting down meal service for senior citizens due to the lack of food supply. For many vulnerable Americans, this crisis is not just about tightening budgets, it's about the risk of going hungry. Maratha Rose, a 78-year-old resident of Charleston, examined the dwindling food donation at a recent senior meal program and responded with dark humor, "I guess we'll get real skinny." While food banks and advocacy groups are pushing back against the administration's cut, the road ahead remains uncertain. Call for the restoration of TEFAP and LFPA funds are gaining momentum, but without immediate intervention, millions of Americans would face worsening food insecurity in the coming months.